Hey, everybody, it's Tony George along with, that's right, USC quarterback Sean Salisbury. Thank God we're not talking about them. We're talking about the Dallas Cowboys season win total. Sean down there in Houston. So you hear a lot of chatter, Sean, about the Cowboys, although you're in the Texans part of the country, but nonetheless, Dallas, huge expectations once again in the NFC East. Sean, your thoughts with Dallas going into this season?
I'm a little concerned right now, Tony. I'm more concerned about this Dak Prescott injury than maybe they're leading on. It bothers me. And when Troy
Yeah,
Aikman says on a broadcast it bothers him, because Troy Aikman's talking to people, right? I know coaches and owners like Jerry Jones will do what they got to do to protect their, and coaches they should. But if it concerns Troy, it concerns me because he's around the Cowboys. But I don't like this MRIs. We're going to go back and check again to see what's happening. If he's healthy, I'm taking the over. I think they dominate the East. I do. I love Washington's defense. I don't trust their consistency on offense. The Giants are. I'm not sure with Daniel Jones how good Barkley's going to be this year. That concerns me. There's a concern on all of them, and then there's the concern in Philadelphia. Do they have the quarterback? Is their roster any good? A new coach. So those three teams. Well, the best one may be Washington with Fitz, and my dog's even talking about the Dallas Cowboys, right? So with that in mind, Tony, if Prescott's healthy, it's a no-brainer. I'm taking the over. I think because the division's not as hard, they're going to score a lot of points. Can Dan Quinn get their defense going? And that'll be the key. And I want to see them fly around. Offensively, they're good enough to win a lot of games. The question is, do they got to be 35, 34 wins? If the defense shows up and Parsons is a player and Dak Prescott's healthy, take the over. If Prescott were to miss, let's say it was serious and he missed 10 games, I'd take the under, no-brainer, and the Cowboys are not going to win the division. That's how important Prescott is. I'm going to bank on the fact that he's healthy and say I'll take the over. The defense will show up. They win the division by a minimum of a game or two by the time December rolls around if he's right.
Well, let's expand on that Dak Prescott comment. He went down in Game 5 last year. They were scoring 32 points a game with him. They scored 21 points per game without him. That warranted a 4-year, $160 million deal. That's a little bit north of what you got when you went to the Vikings, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sean.
Just a tad, and we both earned what we got. Mine a lot less than his, and his $160 million. Well earned, brother. There you go.
Yeah, and if you take a look at this division, as you mentioned, I think Washington is going to be pretty good with Fitzpatrick. You know, it's either Fitz magic or Fitz tragic. You don't know what you're going to get with him from game to game, but an early exodus last night, took a pretty good shot getting sacked, and they pulled him right away. They want to keep him healthy. I think Washington's defense is obviously the best in the division, which always gives you an outside chance. Philadelphia is going to be a mess for the first year, although I did like what I saw out of Hurts. Throw away the box score and watched him play a little bit last night. He's got some mojo. He might make them at least interesting, but as you stated, a whole new scheme. And you have the Giants with a veritable potpourri of you don't know what you're going to get either. I like their head coach a lot, but let's see what he's got to work with. Now, if you take a look at Dallas, if they can't win with Zach at quarterback, as you mentioned, a Dak Prescott at quarterback, you got Elliott. He's the best running back in the division. He's better than Barkley because Barkley can't stay healthy. You got Lamb, Cooper, and Gallup at wide receiver. That's one of the best trio wide receivers in the league. You know,
No
and then you've got Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin at tight end, and both of those are good guys. And your
They're going to
offensive
score a ton
line.
of points, Tony. They're going to score a lot of points no matter what. No doubt.
Yeah, but here's the thing that you mentioned. Let's say, and this is a bet you want to wait to make till closer to training camp is over and these preseason games, folks, because here's their schedule, Sean. They open up at Tampa to open up the NFL season for the whole league. At Tampa, at the LA Chargers, we talked about them Wednesday. They're going to be a team that's going to be, if you don't bring your A game, they'll beat you. Then you got to play the Eagles. There's possibly a win. Then you play Carolina, possibly a win. then you play the Giants, and then you end with New England and go into your bye week. But after the bye week, Sean, they've got Kansas City, New Orleans, and Arizona on their schedule. This is not going to be an easy time of it outside of the division, so they're going to have Dak. And if they don't have Dak in those first, say, 4 games, for whatever reason, strange shoulder, need an extra 4 weeks, they easily could be sitting at 1-3, which
Oh,
scares me if
there's
you're
no
betting me
question.
over here.
Yeah, especially with the defense with Dan Quinn, they're trying to find their way. So you're not expecting them to carry the team right off the bat. So this Dak Prescott health, because Tony, they can. I think that they're going to end up having a top 5 offense in the league if, in fact, he's
Yeah.
healthy. I do. Now, I don't
Yeah.
know if that means defense can keep up and they can do it, but if he's healthy, their defense with Dan Quinn should be good enough to win the division. So you're right. This is one. Keep waiting until somebody says, "Oh, Dak's perfectly healthy and we're good to go." Because if he is, he's the type of guy who's going to roll out there about 45 to 5,000 yards, 4,500 to 5,000, 35 touchdowns. He protects the ball. He can move. Elliott appears to be healthy. They can run play action. They got a great receiving core, as you mentioned. So what's not to like about their offense? The question is, will their defense bring it a little closer together so there's not such a chasm between the two when it comes to success?
Van Der Esch is good at linebacker, but he can't stay healthy. This Parsons kid they got out of Penn State is going to be unbelievable off the
He's
charts.
a monster.
Yep. He is going to be unbelievable. So that's going to help him. 28th in the league in defense last year and gave up more points than any other season in the history of the Cowboys. So Dan Quinn, it's not going to take much to improve on that. So if you can get around, let's say 19th, 18th on defense, much like what Kansas City does with a prolific offense. Look how successful Kansas City is, because this is one of those teams offensively that looks a lot like Kansas City, except they have a better offensive line. So if
no question.
You can't get 10 wins out of this team. That's going to put Mike McCarthy on the hot seat, I can tell you that. Because this is going to be a team that you should win a division and have 10 wins and be in the playoffs. The number is 9.5. Over 9.5 is, or pardon me, 9. Over 9 wins is minus 140. Sean's leaning there. I'm leaning there with a healthy Dak Prescott. That's why you wait to bet this to see how this shakes out and what comes to fruition with his injury. And if you go under, it's plus 115. So I'm with you. Cowboys win the division with a healthy Dak Prescott. And I think they have enough talent across the board on offense to compete with somebody in the playoffs as well, Sean.
I listen, and you know how that goes in the playoffs. It takes a quarterback. Ask Nick Foles, and Prescott's a better player in Philly on that Super Bowl run where he was lights out in the postseason. Listen, when you got an offense you can score, if your defense could just get a turnover or 2, and you're going to test your defense right off the bat in the opening game with Tom Brady going on the road. It's going to be brutal, okay?
Yeah.
So you'll get a pretty good idea of where you are early, but don't let that dictate where you are late, because Brady makes everybody look a little bit silly most of the time. So yeah, I would think that they have to, Tony. I'll be shocked in a 17-game schedule if Prescott's healthy the whole year, if they don't win the division, and may even, like, depending on where they are, don't pull off a first-round win. They're good enough. There's enough good personnel to do that.
Tampa brought back everybody, and the reason I bring that up, offensively and defensively, they have no turnover on their starters. And here's the thing. We want to see how good Dan Quinn is, a defensive coordinator, because he was a head coach against Tampa twice last year. He knows that team. So if he's as good as advertised, he's got plenty to work with, Sean, in terms of knowing exactly what he's going to get with Bruce Arians' team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And so we'll see what he's made of and how big of an improvement Dallas could be. I don't expect Dallas to win that game. They're a 6.5-point underdog. But at the end of the day, I expect them to compete and maybe trade some punches with a healthy Dak Prescott. And I think that's a real big barometer game for Dallas. Do they go in there? Do they get motorboated? Or do they go in there? Do they lose 28-24? I think that's key for them.
No question. And Dan Quinn, like you said, knows about Brady. and well, Tampa and Brady. But he also remembers Brady from the last time he had a 25-point lead in the fourth quarter as a head coach, and Brady came back from 28-3 and beat him. So Dan Quinn's probably got a lot invested in this opening game with Tom Brady, and rightfully so.
He is Sean Salisbury. You can find him on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered, and you can find him daily with one of the best sports talk shows in the country over at iHeartRadio with the Sean Salisbury Show. Thanks for tuning in, folks.